are dead or never dead to us until we have forgotten them. As always, I open this episode with that quote from George Eliot because I believe it. By remembering those who have passed, we give them life. Let's remember those we lost in December 2023. This memorial episode of Toronto Mic'd is brought to you, as always, by Ridley Funeral Home, pillars of this community since 1921. When an FOTM passes away, and luckily there's been very few who have left us, I like to open these episodes by talking about that friend of Toronto Mike. On December 3rd, we learned that Myles Goodwin, lead vocalist, guitarist, and principal songwriter of the rock band April Wine, passed away in Halifax. Myles Goodwin made his Toronto Mike debut in May 2021. It's episode 845 if you're looking for it. We chatted about April Wine, them getting snubbed by the Junos, Myles going solo, and what he was up to at that point. Here's a little of how that conversation sounded.
Awards are very particular things, and they don't really typically mean much. I mean, there's sometimes, of course, if you win an Oscar, your career takes off. If you're, sometimes it doesn't either. Right. But it's a great launching, thing for your career. And winning a Grammy is also, it can mean a lot to your career, or it could be nothing. It really depends on the artist, the talent, and the people with them, and good luck and the rest of it. Right. And Juno is kind of like that. I mean, there was so many. There was a period of time, and I don't want to knock the Junos, but for a time it was a joke. Right. And what happened, and I'm quite honest about this, and I'm sure of what I'm saying. There was a period of time where someone won a Juno and was never heard of again. And it happened time and time again. So it was like, oh God, don't let me win a Juno. That'll be the end of my career. Right. That was a running joke. I mean, I remember one time we lost to a duo called Miles and Lenny. And, we never heard from them again. And there were a lot of artists. There was a string there, a number of years. And of course, and if that wasn't happening, then Anne Murray won everything. She'd right. have a dump and she'd win a Juno. But and of course the Rush. And not saying that those two artists and others don't deserve it, but it was just a given. Right. If Anne Murray's in the mix, and she wins. Because she was wonderful, and she still is wonderful, and Rush are incredible, and so forth. And so either like the same people won all the time. And there was a period of time for several years where if he won, he never, it was a kiss of death. Right. But, people have tried to figure out why in the world, April, because we would be nominated for Album of the Year, Group of the Year, Song
11
of the Year,
nominations.
Graphics.
You're like the Susan Lucci of the Junos.
Yeah, it was crazy. And let's not fool ourselves. There was politics too, It really helps, and it did. I can't say that's the same anymore. It really helped to be in Toronto. I know there are people in groups in Toronto that, again, get exceptional coverage and everything else because they're there. They're playing, they're playing touch football, and they're playing on the hockey team with all the radio people and all. I mean, it really is I know how it is, and April Wine was always a very private band out of Quebec, out of Montreal. We didn't socialize. I mean, I've been a running joke for years. I'm very, very private. I don't leave home after dark unless I'm paid. So it's like it's a combination of a whole bunch of things, and there was also a very big misunderstanding between Walt Grealis and the band one time when somebody wrote something on a fishbowl. It was an old quote from what's his name? I can't remember now. Don't drink the water, fish bleep in it. That old thing. Right. And W.C. Fields said it. And anyway, somebody did that and blamed April Wine. Of course, it wasn't true at all. And Walt Grealis got really. If you know who Walt Grealis is.
Help me out. I'm trying.
Okay, he started the whole Junos. So anyway, okay. He got really, really upset, and we were kind of, I would say, we were blackballed for at least 2 or 3 years. So that didn't help things. And no matter how we tried to straighten out the fact that the real facts that it wasn't us at all, it was somebody else, and it was just really too bad it happened at all. But reflecting poorly on the band wasn't appropriate because it had nothing to do with the group. As a matter of fact, I have I wrote my memoirs in I forget what year, 2017, I think it was, around there, called Just Between You and Me.
Yes.
And this is discussed, and it's very, very clear that we had nothing to do with that actual event. But I think we paid the price with the Juno Committee for at least a few years.
Well, thankfully, on April 18th, 2010, you did finally get inducted into the Canadian Music Hall of Fame. So what did that mean to you? What is that?
Well, I mean, it really, I got to be really honest with you here. Again, my feeling towards Juno, about awards in particular, if you really, if you believe in them too much, mm-hmm. I don't think it's a good thing. I don't think if you're nominated and you lose, you should be really all that disappointed. I mean, of course, a bit. Yeah, I get it. Or if you win, it shouldn't be too big a deal. It's like they don't go extreme either way on these things, because the fact that you're flavor of the month or something, something happened that you win an award that particular year. It's so much more important to have longevity, to be respected by your peers and your fans. So when I finally got the Juno, it was like, well, in my mind, it was about bloody time. And really, for me, it was validation for the fans. I mean, how do the fans feel? They've supported us. Like we broke so many records over the years. We're the first group to go platinum. We're the first group to go double platinum. We have so many firsts in our career, but we were ignored. And the fans got to say after a while, geez, did I believe in this band when I shouldn't have? Are they really not that good? Are they not worthy?
Right.
And I used to feel really bad for the fans. As a matter of fact, when we won, when we were presented with this Lifetime Achievement, or whatever it's called, I said to the Juno Committee, Karis, I said, I want it presented by two people. And I said, one of them has to be a fan. And they said, oh, that's never been done. We can't have that. And I said, well, I don't want it then.
Oh.
I said, no, I want two people to present this. I said, I want a fan. And I have another person I have in mind, and that's my good friend for a long time, Barry Stock from 3 Days Grace.
Right.
And, he was a friend of mine. He was he worked with April Wine as a roadie for a long time, and he went out with 3 Days Grace, and, they've sold millions of records. Sure. They're doing fantastic, and they still are. And he's a dear friend. So I said, I'd like Barry Stock and a fellow named Dave Cameron to present it. And I had a fight back and forth. And I said, this is about the fans. Why would you not allow a fan to be part of the presentation?
Right.
And eventually they said, okay. Now, he was at the time working for the military. He was working on planes and so forth in the Air Force Division of Armed Forces for Canada. and he's big April Wine fan and a wonderful guy. He's still a good friend of mine, and he runs our website, by the way.
Oh, good.
And I said, Dave, I said, you have to come in uniform. And he said, Miles, they won't let me wear the uniform.
Oh.
And I said, that's crazy. I said, how much? Think of the goodwill.
Right.
To you to come out there as the armed forces and a rocker and a fan of April Wine, how wonderful that would be for a PR for the armed forces of Canada.
Right.
And he said, yeah, but they won't allow it. I said, okay, well, then you come on without the uniform. So he did. And then he told me a few months later that they told him at his, somebody there at the base said that they had made a big mistake and they wish they had allowed him to go on with the uniform. It would have been a good thing.
Right.
And of course, it was too late. But there's so much red tape. And, nobody wanted to take the responsibility of saying, yeah, sure, let him wear his uniform. They're so terrified of losing, their jobs or their, or whatever it is that just keeps them in the box, thinking inside the box, if you know what I mean. So, but at the end of the day, all I can say is I'm very proud of getting this special Juno. I'm happy for the fans. Very happy for the fans, most of all.
Yes.
And also, it's nice for my family and my friends to see, Miles, Dad, April Wine got this recognition finally. So at the end of the day, it's all a good thing.
The day after we learned Miles Goodwin had passed away, Ken Reid from Sportsnet dropped by to make his Toronto Mike debut. Ken Reid, who is my age, is from the Maritimes, and I knew he was a big April Wine fan. Of course, we spent a good deal of time off the top talking about the late, great Miles Goodwin. Ken, I know you were a big fan, as was I. We lost Miles Goodwin yesterday at the age of 75, fellow Maritimer. I'm sorry for your loss. I feel like the Maritimes are in mourning this morning.
I think all Canada is, man. Yeah, it's funny. I just played this song for my boys this morning on the way back from the hockey rink. My oldest had tryouts for his school team, and the youngest tagged along. And my youngest said, I know this song, and he sure does. My brother called me yesterday afternoon, and he gave me the news, and I kind of was just, what? And I kind of didn't believe it, and, we're in such a race to be the first on Twitter and all that, and I said, I'm going to wait, because I don't want to believe it, and then it gradually came out. I think it was Eric Alper.
Well, Eric Alper is, I know this because I've had Miles Goodwin on the show, and I booked that through Eric. Eric was Miles's publicist.
Yeah.
So once Eric put out the news, you knew it was, well, Eric's not going to put it out unless he was sure anyways. But he literally is, he was on the payroll. He knows,
Yeah, so I've done an event the last couple of years. I've done an event the last several years, Summerside Boys and Girls Club. We do it at Mill River in Prince Edward Island. And Miles has been there the last couple of years, and he's everything you'd want him to be. He's just a great guy. Yeah. He's cool. He listens, and it was like I saw him this summer. He looked great, And then things happened so quickly.
Yeah.
And he was really enjoying, I guess I'll call it, retirement in Nova Scotia. He was doing songwriter circles. He was still writing. And man, it was just a massive bummer. And I think Canadians took April Wine for granted. Like, Whenever there's an awesome song on classic rock radio and you're like, oh, who is that? I love that song. It's April Wine. Guaranteed.
Sneaky deep catalog.
Sneaky deep. One of the easily top 5 rock bands in Canadian history for me. And I'd put Miles up there with any songwriter this country's ever produced. The first time I introduced him on stage in PEI, I'm like, England has John and Paul as great writers, and we have Miles Goodwin, man. The guy can write a hook. He can write a song. I mean, just listen to this. This is awesome. He's nailing it.
No, I just re-listened to, this is only a couple years ago I had Miles Goodwin on the show. He gave me over an hour. I bet literally, and a couple of the early big radio hits, not the first one, but the second, the big one, and the third were covers, right? So I think there was a little bit of and I don't think many Canadians even understood at the time that, Could Have Been a Lady was a cover.
It's a cover. Yeah. And when you hear it now, I don't think of it as a cover at all.
Yeah.
And Miles he sings that in PEI too. He would sing it, which was awesome. The crowd would just be rocking. Like when you're at a golf tournament in Prince Edward Island and Miles Goodwin's on stage playing and Ricky and Randy from Trailer Park Boys are in the crowd with you and we're all jamming along.
Yeah.
It's truly magical. But yeah, Miles is, he was a gift. It was a gift from Waverly, Nova Scotia to the world. And, a guy who just made his way to Montreal and, ends up writing a tune like this and so many other great ones. It was awesome. And in my basement, there's you got some stuff on your wall here. I have that classic April Wine's Greatest Hits album. It's kind of that light blue background. There's 5 of the guys on the front.
Yes.
So my wife walked down the aisle to I'm on Fire for You, Baby. So Miles signed the album for you to I'll say to Mrs. Reed. Ken's still on Fire for You, Baby, Miles Goodwin. So that's how cool Miles is.
I'm not done talking about Miles yet, Ken. You didn't know this was 90 minutes about Miles Goodwin.
That's cool with me, man. No problem. Talk about Miles all day. A little French in this song, too, eh?
Just between you and me, baby, I know how love will be. Just between you and me, always I know how love will be. Just between you and me.
Wow. Okay, this is the first Canadian band ever to be played on MTV.
Yeah. That's because people forget when MTV started, it was like a rock station, right? They wouldn't even play R&B and stuff like that. So,
I think the first black artist might have been Prince, I think. But
yeah, Michael Jackson had a tough time getting on there.
Yeah.
But and it's cool too because, there's a great, on YouTube, there's a great April Wine concert. I want to say from Idaho. They got this rink packed. There's about 9,000 people there. And when you see April Wine and you see all these classic old bands, with the exception of Kiss and Motley Crue, there's no backing tracks, man. They were playing. They were the real deal. Yeah. And Miles was legit. He was the real deal. He did it because he loved it. A true artist. Still writing. I know he said his greatest honor was getting that Canadian Writers Hall of Fame. He was a writer. It was beautiful.
And his recent solo material was really kind of soul-searching and deep. He had this great Angel Jam that so we're now episode 1,382, but if you go into the Toronto Mike feed one back, so 1,381, is a tribute to Miles Goodwin, in his own words, talking about the origin of the band, going solo. But one of the interesting things, Ken, you kind of alluded to it, but an underrated band, because I asked him about that, because did you know Miles Goodwin and April Wine never won, I'm not talking about career retrospective honorary Junos, but they never won a Juno. They were nominated, I think, 11 times and never won one. And I just asked him, and he kind of opened up. I'm going to share this at the end of the month in the Ridley Funeral Home Memorial episode, but he, and you can hear it on the episode 1,381. But he says, so it's a maritime band that moves to Montreal, and they're Montreal-based. And he said there was a huge bias with the Junos for Toronto-based bands, and because he said these guys like Triumph and Rush, these guys were all out with the writers and the media and hobnobbing with them and at parties with them and golfing with them and playing hockey with them. And he said that he took it as a slight because they were based in Montreal from
Yeah,
Maritimes.
I would say all awards are, it's just the opinions of others about someone. So don't worry about awards. I mean, man, like I always say I remember when Miles got a Lifetime Achievement at the East Coast Music Awards. I want to say it was around 2002. And all these artists played a medley of April Wine's hits, and my brother and I just sat there in amazement going, what? That one too?
Yeah.
That one too? That one too? That one too? And that's kind of really when I got into April Wine, was based off that. I always heard them as kids, but I didn't know it was them. But then I knew it was them, and I'm like, these guys are deep, man. They write so much great stuff.
You're right. And even when they weren't writing the songs, and we talked about the Hot Chocolate cover could have been A Lady, which was a big hit. Even in the States, that was a hit. But the other song I always heard on like Q107 Classic Rock, and it would come on and I would dig it. And I'm like, who the hell is this? Bad Side of the Moon.
Yeah.
Which is, I had no idea, whose song is that?
It's an Elton John
That's
song.
Elton John. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
there's these covers that they kind of made their own,
Right,
and then all
'cause
these
they-
originals.
Right, because you didn't think Elton John ever for that song, right?
I sure don't know it as an Elton John
No.
song. No. Okay, question came in for you, Ken,
Yeah.
from Rob Del Mundo.
Oh, hey, Rob.
Rob wants to know, what is your favorite April Wine song?
So I guess that answer it like this. When people ask me who my favorite band is or what my favorite type of music is, I can never answer because I think it changes on my mood and where I'm at on a certain day. And I would say the same thing about my favorite April Wine song. But and I hate to just pick the obvious one. It's like when people ask me what my favorite hockey card is, I say it's my Wayne Gretzky rookie card. I got to go with Roller, man, because it's just rocking, and it's got everything a good rock and roll song should have. It's got the multiple guitar layers. It's got a killer bass line, and Miles' vocals. Every time I'm in the shower and I try to hit that bye-bye at the end, it does not work. So it's got everything a song can have. And I'm on fire for you, baby, right? Because it reminds me of Mrs. Reed.
Beautiful, beautiful. Miles does not sing on this song, but this is a jam. I really honestly would hear it. I know, and I would hear it all the time on the radio, and I never really knew it was April Wine. Like, I feel like until I had Miles on and I started doing my homework, I'm like, oh, that's an April Wine song? Yeah. That's it. It was an unbelievable tidal wave of like, oh my God.
Can I predict it? Can I go?
Yeah, you say it and then I'll.
How about I'll just go this. No.
Bingo.
Oh, what a night. Jim Clench, the bassist on lead vocals.
Yeah. We'll get a taste of it and then we'll... I love it, man.
Yeah. Little Beatles-esque how Miles shared the vocals right there.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, a little harmony.
And I always say modern-day April Wine is Sloan, because Sloan writes so many great tunes, and Sloan is massively underappreciated in this country. And I got a buddy, Kevin, my buddy Kevin Hilliard. He used to be in Grace Babies, and he sells merch at Sloan's shows. And I remember one time Murph broke his collarbone, so Kev had to play bass, and he's a big April Wine guy. Loves Sloan too, and to me, like, Sloan just writes hit after hit. You hear it on the radio, and you're like, "Who is that?" Well, that's Sloan. Same with April Wine, man. Two great bands.
I'm glad you brought those two bands up because I feel like the Boomers, because you and I are both Gen X.
Yep.
But the Boomers, they get April Wine, like they lived it, they breathed it.
Yes.
And I will shout out Humble Howard Glassman, who I booked Miles Goodwin on Humble and Fred. And it was like I booked Paul McCartney. Like Howard, it was his first concert. He grew up in Moose Jaw.
Wow.
Huge April Wine fan. And that was right, like he's right in that, key boomer demo that loved. So, and I would say Sloan is to Gen X as April Wine is to boomers.
I would not engage in a debate with you on that. I would agree with you on that. And the other thing about April Wine, too, they made such an impression on Canada because they literally played everywhere all the time. Like, there's people tweeting at me, and I did know this. They played my high school dance.
Yes.
And I should note that my high school prom was played by Sandbox.
Yeah, and Bubbles from you mentioned Trailer
Mike
Park
Smith.
Boys earlier.
Yeah, Mike's was one of the guitarists, and they were known as Sandbox Legacy then. So shout out to the boys. Good dudes, man. And Paul Murray, the lead singer, who I always say was on the cover of Nova Scotia Teen Beat magazine 4 years in a row. He's Anne Murray's nephew, so lovely guy. Troy Shanks on the drum. And if you ever need ENT advice, Jason Archibald, who wrote Curious, is an ENT guy over in Brampton, so he's close by.
When you move in right up close to me, that's when I get the chills all over me. Quivers down my backbone, I got the shakes in my thigh bone, I got the shivers in my knee bone, shaking all over.
All right, I'm dedicating this to Canada Kev, who's watching on the live stream. Hello to Canada Kev. But we lost, Robert, Chad Allen. What can you remind us about Chad Allen? I think there's a little confusion with the younger set about how I thought this was Bachman and Cummings, and when did they enter the fray? How is it Chad Allen's group? What's going on with the Guess Who's origin?
Well, Chad Allen is the original lead vocalist. They started in the early 60s, and Chad played rhythm guitar and lead vocals. So you also had Bob Ashley, who's a friend of mine, playing that hammering piano that you hear there. Randy Bachman, Jim Cale, and Gary Peterson. And they had a whole bunch of hits and a couple of albums before Bob Ashley left. And they got a new young teenage punk on keyboards, Burton Cummings. Wow. So for a while, Chad Allen was still the lead vocalist.
Okay.
And he had Burton on keyboards.
Okay, so how does Chad get squeezed out of the Guess Who?
They start playing a little bit of a heavier sound. Once Burton was on board, he did start singing a few songs live. So they would do like an Animals cover and stuff like that Burton had a bit more of a gritty voice he could kind of really sink his teeth into. And I think Chad just kind of knew the writing was on the wall. He didn't want to tour as much, and he was a little bit more of a reserved personality. So he ended up leaving after the third album.
Yeah, did you ever have a chance to see Chad Allen play live?
I didn't, and unfortunately when I started writing the book, he had just suffered a stroke. So I didn't push for an interview with him. I wanted to give him plenty of time to recover, and he never really fully recovered. I mean, he was doing better for a while. By that point, the book was out, and so yeah, recently he did finally pass away, which is pretty sad for Canadian music. That song that you just played was a number one hit in this country, and it hit a number 22 in the States, which at the time Canada didn't have a lot of international chart success.
That's when it all begins for the Guess Who. That's a cover of a British rock song, right?
It's really where it all begins for pop and rock music in this country.
Wow. That voice you heard belongs to FOTM Robert Lawson, who dropped by on December 14th for episode 1392 of Toronto Mic'd. He was infamously fact-checking the Randy Bachman episode of Toronto Mic'd, which had recorded a couple of months prior. Robert Lawson is somewhat of a Guess Who expert, making him the ideal person to chat with about the sad loss of Chad Allen. Chad Allen was the founding member and original lead singer of the Guess Who. We lost him on November 21st at the age of 80. You're listening to Time to Hide by Paul McCartney and Wings, a song written by Denny Laine. Denny Laine has the distinction of being a founding member of both the Moody Blues and Wings. Denny passed away in Florida on December 5th at the age of 79.
Boy, the way Glenn Miller played.
Songs that made the hit parade.
Guys like us, we had it made.
Those were the days. And you knew where you were then.
Girls were girls and men were men. Mister, we could use a man like Herbert Hoover again. Didn't need no welfare states.
Everybody pulled his weight. Gee, our old La Salle ran great. Those were the days.
All in the Family is the greatest sitcom of all time, right? I mean, I can't imagine a better sitcom. It aired on CBS for 9 seasons. I caught it in syndication. So smart, so funny, so thought-provoking. Fun fact, Maude is a spin-off of All in the Family. Some consider Good Times a spin-off of Maude. The most successful spin-off of All in the Family was The Jeffersons. This entire universe, the creation of Norman Lear. The man created and produced not just All in the Family and Maude, but Sanford and Son, One Day at a Time, the aforementioned The Jeffersons, the aforementioned Good Times, and damn was he interesting. Would I have ever loved to have a conversation with Norman Lear on Toronto Mic'd. Norman Lear died on December 5th at his home in Los Angeles at the age of 101. Well done, Norman.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Our guests for tonight are the committee, Dion, Jennifer Warren,
Right.
really a great new singer, and a special guest star, Donovan. Tommy also has a special guest, too, and he'd like to introduce him right now. wouldn't he?
That's right, I have a Beatle.
Yeah, but it's not the kind of Beatle you would expect it to be.
It's the kind of Beatle that you, I think you hoped it would be. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. George Harrison. I don't know, all of you, I think, saw the, several weeks ago we had on, your people did, Hey Jude and Revolution.
We thought, Tommy and I both thought that Hey Jude was the best presentation that we've ever seen of the Beatles. And we're glad it was
Yes,
on our
so
show.
are we. Have you met my brother Dick? Let me introduce, this is Tommy, and this is my brother Dick.
How do you do? How do you do? Enjoyed your work. You look different in person.
Yeah, so do you.
Yeah.
It's all the makeup, too much makeup.
Do you have something important?
Something very important to say on American television.
You know, a lot of times we don't have opportunity to say anything important because it's American television. Every time you say something and try to say something important,
Clap, 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 clap. Cue the lines. Well, whether you can say it or not, keep trying to say it.
That's what's
You
important.
get that? Yeah. That is very important. Cue. Just a minute.
Wait a second.
Okay, cue the clap now.
The Smothers Brothers were Tommy and Dick Smothers. When I was growing up, they seemed to be everywhere. Tommy had the signature line, "Mom always liked you best." As you heard in that clip, the Smothers Brothers Comedy Hour would have on interesting guests, and that was George Harrison making an appearance. But as they alluded to in that short clip, the Smothers Brothers did not shy away from getting political on their program, and that led to CBS firing them in 1969. Closer to home, Tommy Smothers was at the live recording of John Lennon's Give Peace a Chance in Montreal in 1969. He was playing acoustic guitar with John. Heck, he got a shout out in the lyrics. If you see the documentary film Imagine, John Lennon, you'll see Tommy Smothers in room 1742 at the Queen Elizabeth Hotel in Montreal during John Lennon and Yoko Ono's bed-in on June 1st, 1969. Tom Smothers died of lung cancer at his home in California on December 26th at the age of 86. Is there a more underappreciated show than Homicide: Life on the Street? I don't even know where I'd find it streaming today. But no Homicide: Life on the Street, no The Wire. With all due respect to John Munch, the best character in Homicide: Life on the Street was Frank Pembleton, played by Andre Braugher. Braugher was fantastic in this role. I know many people listening know him far better from Brooklyn Nine-Nine. But if I knew where to find Homicide: Life on the Street, I'd send you there to check it out. Andre Braugher died from lung cancer on December 11th, having only been diagnosed a few months ago. He was only 61 years old. By the way, another character on Homicide: Life on the Street is Meldrick Lewis, played by Clark Johnson. Clark Johnson, brother of FOTM Molly Johnson, was also in The Wire. But in 2008, Clark Johnson starred in Nurse Fighter Boy, written and directed by Charles Officer. It premiered at TIFF. It earned 10 Genie nominations. It won the Audience Choice Award at the Mannheim Heidelberg Film Festival and Sarasota Film Festival. It was a big deal, and it launched a great career for Charles Officer, who died here in Toronto on December 1st at the age of 48.
Almost rang the phone.
Hot Stuff by the Queen of Disco, Donna Summer, was one of the many jams used effectively in the Full Monty. If you enjoyed the Full Monty, you likely enjoyed the performance of Tom Wilkinson. Tom's been in everything. Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, The Best Exotic Marigold Hotel. He's got dozens and dozens of credits for movies you've seen, but he might be best known for starring in the Bedroom and his supporting role in Michael Clayton. Tom Wilkinson died suddenly at his home on December 30th at the age of 75.
Did I say you could kiss me?
I was carried away.
I wasn't.
Celebrate one of the most romantic movies of all time.
What would you say if I told you I think I'm in love with you?
Love Story.
You're a preppy millionaire and I'm smart and poor.
If you marry her now, I'll not give you the time of day.
Nominated for 7 Academy Awards, including Best Picture.
Jenny, I'm sorry.
Love means never having to say you're sorry.
Love Story. Own it now on Blu-ray and digital.
Love means never having to say you're sorry. I dropped that line on the reg. Ryan O'Neal got his start in an ABC soap opera called Peyton Place. That trailer, of course, was for Love Story, which is really what I know Ryan O'Neal best from. It got him nominated for an Academy Award for Best Actor and a Golden Globe for Best Actor. He was in Barry Lyndon, Paper Moon, What's Up Doc, A Bridge Too Far, The Driver. He was in a relationship with Farrah Fawcett from 1979 to 1997. His daughter, Tatum O'Neal, is the youngest person ever to win an Academy Award. She won it for Paper Moon, which, as I mentioned, co-starred her dad. Ryan O'Neal died on December 8th at the age of 82. I was watching a lot of NCAA basketball when Eric Montross was starring for the University of North Carolina Tar Heels. I was a big Michigan Wolverine fan, particularly when the Fab Five were starting, and I watched Michigan lose to UNC in that 1993 title game. In 2001, Eric Montross and Jerome Junkyard Dog Williams were traded to the Raptors for Cornell David, Tyrone Corbin, and Corliss Williamson. There's a trade for you. Montross retired as a Toronto Raptor due to a foot injury, and sadly, he was diagnosed with cancer and died on December 17th at the very young age of 52.
Do the Titans have a miracle left in them in what has been a magical season to this point? If they do, they need it now. Christie kicks it high and short. Going to be fielded by Lorenzo Neal at the 25. Pitches it back to Wycheck. He throws it across the field to Dyson.
He's got something.
30,
He's
40,
got something.
50,
He's got it.
40,
He's got it.
20, 10.
He's got it.
End zone. Touchdown Titans. There are no flags on the field. It's a miracle. Tennessee has pulled a miracle.
As long as I'll live, I'll never forget the Music City Miracle game. I was wearing my Buffalo Bills Doug Flutie jersey, and I was at Mark Carey's place near Yonge and Eglinton. We were watching the game with a bunch of his buds. I was royally ticked off at Wade Phillips because he played Rob Johnson instead of Doug Flutie. All Doug Flutie did was win that season, but Johnson got the start. I did not like Rob Johnson. Still, it looked like the Buffalo Bills were going to win. And at that time, the Bills were my team. You just heard the play. Steve Christie kicks a high and short kick fielded by Lorenzo Neal. Neal hands the ball to Frank Wycheck, and then Wycheck throws the ball across the field to Kevin Dyson. It was a lateral pass. It was legal. Dyson ran 75 yards into the end zone for the go-ahead touchdown. I've seen the replay 100 times. I still don't believe it. That was the day that the Bills stopped being my team. Did I mention it was January 8th, 2000? Frank Wycheck would play 11 seasons for Washington and the Titans. On December 9th, he died at the age of 52 after falling and hitting his head at his home in Chattanooga.
To the O'Connor family, my wife Jill and I send our love on behalf of a truly grateful nation for her service. I'm humbled to be asked to speak today. To the members of the clergy, the Chief Justice, Justice of the Supreme Court, past and present, members of the bench and bar, members of the Congress, distinguished guests, and fellow Americans. More than 40 years ago, on a Wednesday in September 1981, the Senate Judiciary Committee came to order. I was the ranking member of that committee, and the day's business was momentous. The nomination of Sandra Day O'Connor to become the first woman in American history to serve as a Supreme Court Justice on the United States Supreme Court. Announcing her nomination earlier that summer, President Reagan described her as, and I quote, a person for all seasons. And it was a person for all seasons who we saw at that hearing, and the Americans and the world would see through her extraordinary service as a justice, and I might add, as a citizen. Gracious and wise, civil and principled, Sandra Day O'Connor, the daughter of the American West, was a pioneer in her own right, breaking down the barriers in legal and political worlds and the nation's consciousness. To her, the Supreme Court was bedrock, the bedrock of America. It was the vital line of defense for the values and the vision of our republic, devoted not to pursuit of power for power's sake, but to make real the promise of America. The American promise that holds that we're all created equal and deserve to be treated equally throughout our lives. The High Court, she said in her opening statement, and I quote, is a body to which all Americans look for the ultimate protection of their rights. It is the United States Supreme Court that we all turn when we seek that which we want most from our government, equal justice under law, end of quote. Equal justice under law is the noblest aspiration of humankind, and the aspiration of Sandra Day O'Connor, one that she pursued her whole life. The last justice to have held elective office, she was especially conscious of the law's real impact on people's lives. One need not agree with all her decisions in order to recognize that her principles were deeply held and of the highest order. and that her desire for civility was genuine. And her trust in the capacity of human institutions to make life better is what this world was abiding. And how she embodied such attributes under such pressure and scrutiny helped empower generations of women in every part of American life, including the court itself, helping to open doors, secure freedoms, and prove that a woman can not only do anything a man can do, but many times do it a heck of a lot better. Excuse my language, Father. Beyond the bench, Justice O'Connor valued the civic life of the nation in our schools, in our community centers, in families, and in our friendships. Yes, America is the land of rugged individualists, adventurers, and entrepreneurs. But she knew no person is an island. In the fabric of our nation, we're all inextricably linked. And for the America to thrive, America must see themselves not as enemies, but as partners in the great work of deciding our collective destiny. That's the essence of our national experience, the sacred cause of democracy she devoted her life to, one that we must continue. I'll close with how she closed her opening statement on that September day 42 years ago. She spoke about the power of family. Family being the hope of the world, the strength of community, the relationship between ourselves and generations that follow. To her sons, Scott, Brian, and Jay, how she admired your intellect, and you may recall that hearing your sense of adventure. We all saw on that day, and all those years after, how much she loved your dad, a brilliant lawyer who always supported her. To the entire family, including the grandchildren, I know how hard all these years have been to watch a disease that robbed them both, and all of you, of so very much. But I hope you hold on to what is never truly lost, the love both of them had for you, and the love you had for them. A love they shared so freely, and a love you returned with equal devotion. What a gift. What a gift. And I hope you find comfort in another profound consequence of her service. The countless families that she helped by speaking so openly about your family's experiences. It matters. In that opening statement on that day in September, she mentioned how your parents got married in December. Here we gather today, a day before it would have been their 71st wedding anniversary. I know the anniversaries and the birthdays, the moments big and small, will be hard without them. But as the saying goes, memory is the power to gather roses in winter. I hope you find the strength in knowing that your mom and dad are together again this December, gathering roses in winter once again as great Americans, both great Americans for all seasons. May God bless Sandra Day O'Connor, an American pioneer.
Sandra Day O'Connor, the first woman to serve as a U.S. Supreme Court Justice, passed away on December 1st in Phoenix, Arizona, at the age of 93.
When my father Harry started the company,
he would keep handwritten cards about each of his customers. Long before big data, these were his way of ensuring that he knew his customers better than anyone. He'd keep track of their measurements, brands, or styles they liked, anything he thought would help serve them better. 60 years later, that commitment to customer service still endures. Today, our clothing advisors use the latest technology to keep up with much the same kinds of details Harry would, to provide you with the best service.
Harry Rosen founded Harry Rosen Inc., the Canadian retail chain of 17 luxury men's clothing stores, in 1954. That first store, by the way, was a 500 square foot store in Cabbagetown. He opened with $500 that he borrowed. Harry Rosen was 92. This has been the Ridley Funeral Home Memorial episode of Toronto Mic'd for the month of December 2023. If you lost someone you love in December, my sincere condolences. Peace and love to all. I'm Toronto Mike.